that is where we kind of wanted to talk about in regards to teen dating violence. Have you seen that? You guys are parents. Some of you are parents. Have you seen, as they get into these ages of the tweens and the teens, you know, signs as you're dropping off your kids or whatever, signs of people or kids, basically teenagers, that you see some of these warning signs of pre-abuse or teen dating abuse? Yeah.
You could kind of say it's ignorance. You know, children, they don't know, and I say children because you're still a sponge. Up until I'm still learning, and you know, and I'm not young, but I'm just saying I'm still learning. And at these ages, you know, you think you're supposed to instill all the right concepts in your children when you're young, but I'm a mother of a 17-year-old, and so I'm going through a lot of stuff with my son. And but he's a very, very, very good boy and follows a lot of what we've instilled in him. But the girlfriends that he may not have been taught the right way, and they may be doing some messed up things, you know, and he'll be thinking, oh, maybe I'm supposed to do this, but maybe I'm not, you know, so he doesn't know the right way, you know. So yeah,
so your son's actually looking for guidance too.
Not necessarily guidance, but I as a parent, you know, I slap a lot of, this is what I expect, this is what you need to watch, this is what you need to, you know, look out for, da-da-da-da. But I can only tell him so much. I can't tell the girls what they need to do, or, you know, you need to not do this kind of stuff because they're young. And sometimes when you're at like 14, 15 years old, you think sex is the way to go. And then with both boyfriend and girlfriend, you kind of set an image already when if you're, you know, allowing this kind of behavior, or if you don't allow this kind of behavior. And if you don't understand what it is, at 14 and 15 years old, you accept however life is. And you begin to think that, oh, this must be love. This must be how it's supposed to be.
I guess if I can bring up a question, you made a good point. You talked about sex, and this would be teenage sex. What's happening now is that many of our youth are getting into these relationships, and they're not able to determine what are the signs of violence, domestic violence, and control. And sex is actually used as, I guess, a factor in domestic violence, controlling the other partner. And that can be used by the male against the female, or the female against the male, too. So I think what we're seeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but even with my 14-year-old nephew, they're having a lot of issues in middle school and high school with sex, with anger, controlling their anger. You see a lot of bullying, even cyberbullying. Right? They text people. It's beginning to be quite difficult now in our school system. So correct me if I'm wrong, but we are seeing more of that. Unfortunately, more domestic violence even with our teens. Is that correct?
You're right, because the younger generation is they've kind of sped up to where, you know, yeah, it's
faster, yeah.
Not necessarily matured. It's just they think that sex needs to be done at 12 and 13. You know, a lot of these younger girls are giving birth at 13 and 14, and they end up leaving the guy at 15. What did you learn? I mean, and then every guy after that, you're gonna think that this is how it's supposed to be because you've started so young. You know, you think that I don't know what happened to the God morale, or you know, like how, okay, you're not supposed to do this until you get married. You know, that's all out the window.
And I think that's one of the genesis for Representative Finnegan's resolution, to try to address a lot of the concerns and problems we're having with our middle schools and our high schools about domestic violence, control, and anger problems. And so her resol is an excellent foundation or starting point for us to try to address this and tell our students this is not acceptable, this shouldn't be accepted. These are the signs of violence or domestic violence, and this is how to navigate out of it. So I think Lynn's done a great job with her resolution.
Yeah, and what I'm observing is that when kids are in these romantic relationships at an early age, that they tend to think that they can do adult things, you know? And so, and so, let me ask you, now your sister was, and cousin was 25 years old?
Yes.
Okay, so she was 25 years old. How, as a 25-year-old young woman, had she handled this particular issue of domestic violence? If you can kind of take us through, you know, like, what did you see? What did you observe as
This is when you should have the mic.
Yeah.
She was with him for 3 years. She was with him for 3 years, and he wasn't. I really hate saying this, but he wasn't a bad person. He was good. You know,
he was
I mean,
genuine.
he
when
was.
I first met him, he really was. He had good intentions.
He loved my sister. She loved him.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then about a year later, they had their first domestic fight.
So
And
it
my
was a
sister-
year
Yeah.
before he even showed signs of
Yeah.
having this
Yeah.
kind of anger or
He wanted to
controlling.
control Royal. It's hard to control. She had a mind of her own. She's very independent. She made a lot of money.
She had a
She
really
was-
good job, a career.
Yeah.
She didn't have no kids.
Yeah, no
and she
kids,
had
no
family,
house, and
so
we all have houses. So
Yeah.
she was always in our home. So she lived vicariously. She just had fun. And when that first domestic thing happened, you know, we were like, "That's it. You're done. You're done."
What did that look like?
as for signs. Like
Yeah,
what-
was there actual
Yeah.
physical signs,
He,
or you
he
she
punched
told
her right in the nose.
Oh, wow.
And so she had two black eyes, a broken nose right
Wow.
here, and she had bruises on her arms from him yanking at her. I think that was when he shoved her down the stairs.
Down the stairs.
Yeah, he pushed her down a flight of stairs.
He did.
And that was the first time. And I
That was
went to
the-
pick her up over in Makaha. I went to pick her up because she called me. And yeah, she was like, they did do press charges. They did all of that. But I don't know, my sister thought that she loved him.
Mm-hmm.
And she went back.
Okay.
And then
They came back to our house. And then that's when me and my husband gave them the ultimatum, you know, that you can't do this. It's unacceptable. You know, me and my husband don't ever show that kind of signs. And I have a 6-year-old. And they were really, really close. Like, my daughter was like their daughter, yeah, when they were living with us. And so for my daughter to see my sister with bruises and this, and my sister I told my daughter the truth, yeah, but my sister tried to sugarcoat it, you know. Oh, we just got into a little argument. We had a disagreement. And so I told my sister, it's not okay for you to say that to her because we don't ever display this kind of signs.
And you
I
don't
don't
want your
ever
daughter
want
to
my daughter
ever
to think
get
that
hit.
it's
It's
okay.
okay.
If she gets hit, the first time she gets hit, she better
better
scream,
welcome back.
like,
Yeah.
what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And so that's what I want my daughter to know, you know, that you should never, ever get hit. But I told my sister, you know, you cannot do this. You cannot bring this kind of violence. And so she was like, okay, it'll never happen again. And my husband sat him down, talked to him.
Really?
Yeah, and told him, you know, you cannot hit my sister-in-law. That, I don't even
That's
hit
not
my
right.
wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
But it happened again.
but it happened again, the second time.
What was the time?
Was the second
From
time at
the
your
first
house, or was
time?
it at Nofoa's house?
The one at Nofoa's house was like
There's
the third
been
time.
before
Because there was,
then,
after
in
that first
between.
incident, there was another one where he, it wasn't so much hitting. He was strangling her, like grabbing her legs and shushing her, like shoving her all around. But it left bruises, fingerprint bruises on my sister's legs. And my daughter, you know, my sister played volleyball, and my daughter was their like little mascot. So my daughter would go along with her. And so when my sister wore her shorts, my daughter was like, "What is all that?" And my sister was like, "Oh, it's just bruises. It's just bruises."